I stare at the television screen, my body frozen, breathing suspended. The evening news anchor's voice fades to a distant murmur as 6 numbers appear at the bottom of the screen. 6 numbers that match exactly what's written on the ticket clutched in my trembling hand. And tonight's Mega Millions jackpot winner will take home a staggering $39 million, the anchor announces, her practiced smile revealing nothing of how those digits are shattering my world. I can't move, can't breathe, can't process what's happening. Those numbers, my father's birthday, my mother's birthday, the day my siblings were born, and my own birth month stare back at me from both the screen and my ticket. My phone rings, shattering the moment. Bryce's name flashes on the screen. My brother, always calling when he needs something. Hey, little sis, he says the moment I answer, his voice carrying that familiar charm that usually precedes a request. How's my favorite financial wizard? I open my mouth to tell him to scream it, actually, but something stops me. A memory, sharp and clear, slides into focus. Look, I hate to do this, Bryce continues, not waiting for my response. But I'm in a bind. Just need a small loan till next week. 500? I'd ask Mom. But you know how she gets with her lectures. My fingers tighten around the lottery ticket. $500. Last month it was $300. The month before, $200 that he still hasn't repaid. Dahlia, you there? I glance around my modest apartment, the second-hand furniture, the patch on my couch I covered with a throw blanket, the kitchen with appliances from the previous decade, all while my family lives in relative luxury. Sorry, Bryce. Bad connection. I lie, my voice steadier than I feel. What were you saying? He launches into an elaborate story about an unexpected car repair, but my mind drifts to Thanksgiving last month at Noelle's house. The memory unfolds with painful clarity. My sister's home had gleamed with expensive furnishings and seasonal decorations that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dad and Valerie had dominated dinner conversation with tales of their upcoming Aspen vacation, while Mom and Elliot showed off her new diamond bracelet. Just because it's Tuesday, Elliot had joked. I'd escaped to the kitchen for a moment of peace when Noelle and Mom walked in, not noticing me behind the pantry door. Poor Dahlia. Mom had sighed, setting down her wine glass. Always struggling. I worry about her. Noelle had nodded sympathetically. She works so hard at that little job. But you know Dahlia, practical to a fault. No ambition for anything bigger. If only she'd listened when Elliot offered to get her that position at his friend's company, Mom replied. But she's always been stubborn about making her own way. They'd walked out, leaving me clutching a serving dish, swallowing back words that would have ruined the holiday. Later that night, Bryce had cornered me on the porch. Hey, can I borrow $200? Just till next week. I definitely will pay you back. I'd written the check, like always. Just like I always covered Mom's birthday present when Noelle and Bryce conveniently forgot to chip in. Just like I helped Dad with his taxes every year without acknowledgement. So anyway, about that $500, Bryce's voice pulls me back to the present. I can Venmo you back next Friday. Promise. I close my eyes. $39 million sits in my hand. And my brother is asking for a small loan he'll never repay. I'll think about it, I say, surprising us both. I need to check my accounts. What? You always have emergency cash. His tone sharpens with annoyance. Since when do you need to check? Since about 3 minutes ago, when everything changed. I'll call you tomorrow, I say, ending the call before he can protest. The quiet of my apartment engulfs me. I sink onto my worn couch, staring at the ticket. 60-hour work weeks, budgeting every penny, being the responsible one while everyone else enjoys life, being the family ATM while they treat me like the boring middle child who needs to live a little. My phone buzzes with a text from Nina. You watching the lottery drawing? Someone in Denver won big. Nina, my best friend since college, the only person who truly sees me. I call her immediately. Did you see? She asks when she answers. It's me, I whisper. I won. A long pause follows, then Nina's voice, low and serious. Oh my God, are you sure? Positive. $39 million, Nina. I'm coming over, she says without hesitation. An hour later, we sit cross-legged on my living room floor, the winning ticket safely placed inside a sealed envelope between us. You haven't told your family? Nina asks, though she already knows the answer. I shake my head. twisting the edge of my sweater sleeve. I almost told Bryce. He called asking for money right after I realized. Nina's expression darkens. Of course he did. What if they only want me for my money? The question bursts out before I can stop it, raw and painful. Nina reaches for my hand. Honestly, some of them might. You've been their safety net for years without appreciation. I keep thinking about last Thanksgiving and Christmas and every family gathering where I'm treated like an afterthought until someone needs a loan or tax help. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of what's happening settling around us. What if I didn't tell them right away? The idea forms as I speak it. What if I tested them first? Nina raises an eyebrow. How? I could tell them I lost my job. Ask each of them for help just enough to cover rent and some medical bills. See who steps up for me the way I've always done for them. That's either brilliant or terrible, Nina says, her forehead creasing with concern. You might not like what you discover. I look down at the envelope containing a piece of paper worth $39 million. Money that could change everything or reveal that nothing needs to change because I already know the truth. I need to know who they really are, I say finally, before this money changes who I am. On Tuesday next week, the morning light filters through my blinds as I rehearse the words one more time. My reflection stares back at me, eyes rimmed with exhaustion after a sleepless night. I lost my job yesterday. The company is restructuring and... I pause, adjusting my expression to the right blend of worry and composure. Not too desperate, not too calm. I need a little help until I find something new. The lottery ticket sits in a sealed envelope on my dresser, now secured in a waterproof, fireproof pouch. $39 million, waiting silently while I prepare for the most important test of my life. After meeting with attorney Marcus O'Neill yesterday, a silver-haired man with kind eyes and a reputation for discretion, I feel more grounded. The blind trust he established under Silver Lining Enterprises will protect my identity and my windfall until I'm ready. Remember, Marcus had said, his voice gentle but firm, the fewer people who know, the better. My phone buzzes. Nina. You sure about this? She asks immediately. I need to know. I tell her, running my fingers through unwashed hair. $4,500. That's all I'm asking for. Rent and medical bills. A reasonable request for family. I call my mother first, catching her between yoga and lunch with friends. Her voice brightens when she sees my name. Dahlia, I was just telling Elliot we should have you over soon. It's been ages. I swallow hard. Mom, something's happened. I deliver the practice story, keeping my voice steady with the precision of someone who spent years managing others' emotional reactions. As the words tumble out, her breathing changes a subtle tightening that I recognize from childhood disappointments. Oh, honey, she says, but there's a flatness beneath her sympathy. What terrible timing. We just finished the kitchen renovation. $40,000. Can you believe it? The marble alone was... Mom, I interrupt gently. I'm asking if you can help with rent, just until I find something. The silence stretches between us. I hear Elliot's voice in the background, questioning. Well, she says finally, at your age, you really should have savings for this sort of emergency. Elliot's words, not hers. I can tell by the inflection. Isn't that what financial analysts do? Plan for contingencies? My throat tightens. I've been helping Bryce and Noelle with... Have you called your father? She cuts in. That's what all that child support was for, you know. College and emergencies. I end the call with vague promises to figure something out. My hand shakes as I set down the phone. 2 days later, I sit across from my father at his country club, the white tablecloth between us like a peace treaty neither of us signed. Harold Cook, finance executive and golf enthusiast, studies me over reading glasses while Valerie, his third wife, scrolls through her phone with obvious disinterest. Downsized? My father frowns, signaling the waiter for another bottle of wine. $200, I note automatically. What did you do to get yourself fired? The company is restructuring, I repeat. The words worn smooth from repetition. My entire department was eliminated. Valerie looks up, her gaze sharp despite her practiced boredom. Didn't you just help them with their quarterly taxes? Honestly, Dahlia, this is so irresponsible. My father nods, swirling amber liquid in his glass. Your timing couldn't be worse. The market's down. Our investment property needs a new roof. I watch him lecture me about fiscal responsibility while ordering his third glass of wine. The irony would be funny if it weren't so painful. They leave me with a parting gift, a dog-eared self-help book titled Financial Freedom After Failure. Valerie had it in her car, apparently. "We're recycling?" she explains with a tight smile. Noelle's response comes via video chat the next evening, her perfect living room visible behind her. Tasteful artwork, fresh flowers, the gleam of new furniture. "Oh, Dahlia," she whispers, eyes welling with tears that never quite fall. "I'm devastated for you." Her sympathy warms me briefly until she continues. "I wish we could help, truly. But with Maddie's private school tuition just increased, and Colin's country club fees." She trails off, glancing over her shoulder as if her husband might appear. "Colin handles all our finances, you know. I don't even have access to our accounts. Can you ask him?" I press, noticing how she fidgets with her new diamond bracelet. "It's not a good time," she says quickly. "He's stressed about work, but I'm sending so much love and good energy your way." Bryce responds with a single text. "Tough break. Not a good time for me either." When I remind him he still owes me $800 from the last 3 emergencies, he stops responding altogether. That night, I sit cross-legged on my living room floor, surrounded by old calendars and bank statements. Methodically, I track every loan, every financial favor. $15,700 over 2 years. Money that quietly disappeared into the black hole of my family's needs, never to return. My phone pings with a group chat notification, a conversation about me that doesn't include me. Yet they invited me to reproach me. Aunt Meredith speculating about my financial irresponsibility. Cousin Travis promising to call me with advice, then blocking my number when I mention needing actual help. I press my palms against my eyes until stars appear in the darkness. The lottery ticket sits in its secure pouch, hidden in my underwear drawer. $39 million, and not a single family member willing to help me with rent. Nina was right. I might not like what I discover. But as I carefully document each betrayal, each excuse, each moment of callous disregard, I realize I'm not surprised. Deep down, I think I've always known. I just needed proof. And now I have it. On Wednesday evening next week, the sharp knock on my apartment door makes me flinch. I slide my eyes to the clock, 6:42 p.m. Dad and Valerie left barely 20 minutes ago, their disappointment hanging in the air like cheap cologne. "Dahlia, we're worried about you," Dad had said, settling his tall frame onto my couch without waiting for an invitation. The leather of his expensive loafers gleamed against my worn carpet. Valerie had remained standing, her gaze sweeping across my living room with the critical assessment of someone cataloging items for a yard sale. "Have you considered downsizing? This neighborhood is..." "Fine, but there are more affordable options." I bite the inside of my cheek as another knock sounds. Probably Dad returning to deliver some final wisdom he'd forgotten to impart. For 2 hours they'd talked at me, around me, through me, never with me. "Coming," I call, my voice steadier than the trembling in my hands. I open the door to find Aunt June, my mother's older sister, standing in the hallway. Her silver-streaked hair is pulled back in its usual practical bun, and she clutches a glass casserole dish wrapped in a faded kitchen towel. "Aunt June?" The surprise in my voice is genuine. "I heard you might be going through a tough time." She offers a small smile, crow's feet deepening around kind eyes. "Chicken and rice. Still your favorite?" I step back, wordless, and she enters, bringing with her the scent of home-cooked food and drugstore perfume. As she sets the casserole on my kitchen counter, I notice the small pharmacy bag peeking from her purse. The familiar orange prescription bottles for her diabetes medication catch my eye, the same medication she sometimes skips when money gets tight. "Your father called your mother. Your mother called Noelle." Noelle posted something vague but concerning on Facebook. Aunt June turns to me, her expression free of judgment. The family phone tree works efficiently when there's gossip to spread. My throat tightens. "They all know I lost my job?" "And they're all very concerned," she says, the slight emphasis on the last word revealing volumes. I sink onto a kitchen chair. Dad and Valerie just left. They suggested I sell my car and move to a cheaper apartment. Aunt June sits across from me, her hands folded on the table. Unlike my parents' manicured perfection, her fingers show the honest wear of a 62-year-old elementary school teacher, slightly swollen knuckles, a paper cut on her index finger, nails cut short for practicality. "And what did they offer besides advice?" she asks quietly. A bitter laugh escapes me. "A lecture on fiscal responsibility from a man who bought a boat last summer." Harold always did believe his words were more valuable than his actions. She reaches for her purse. "I'm not here to lecture you, Dahlia." My eyes widen as she places a sealed envelope on the table between us. Through the thin paper, I can make out the distinct shape of cash. "Aunt June." "No." "It's $2,800, she interrupts, her voice firm. "Nearly all my savings, but I can make it on my teacher's pension if I'm careful." My mouth opens, then closes. The enormity of what she's offering, not just money, but sacrifice, renders me speechless. "My guest room is small, but the house is paid for," she continues, misinterpreting my silence as hesitation. "You could stay with me until you find something new." "We'd manage." "You'd do that?" The question comes out smaller than I intended, childlike in its vulnerability. "Of course I would." She reaches across the table, her warm hand covering mine. "Your family, sweetheart." 2 simple words, the same ones my father had wielded like a weapon earlier. "We're family, Dahlia." Families help each other. But from Aunt June, they sound completely different, an offering rather than an obligation. Something inside me cracks open. A lifetime of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who gives without expectation of return. All of it collapses under the weight of this one genuine act of kindness. Tears spill down my cheeks, hot and fast. Not the careful, controlled tears I'd allowed myself when my family dismissed my pleas for help, but raw, body-shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than my chest. "I'm sorry," I gasp between breaths. Aunt June moves her chair closer, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "Don't apologize for feeling, honey." The kindness in her voice only makes me cry harder. For minutes that feel like hours, she sits beside me, her hand making small circles on my back, the same motion she used when I was 7 and skinned my knee at her house. When the storm finally passes, leaving me hollow and strangely light, I look up to find her eyes wet too. "Aunt June," I whisper, the decision crystallizing with sudden clarity. "I need to tell you something." She waits, patient as always. I stand on shaky legs and walk to the bookshelf, reaching behind a row of financial planning books, ironic now, to extract the envelope containing the lottery ticket. Returning to the table, I place it next to her offering. "I didn't lose my job." The confession tumbles out. "I was testing everyone." Her eyebrows lift slightly, but she says nothing. I slide the ticket across to her. "I won the Mega Millions 2 weeks ago. $39 million. Aunt June stares at the ticket, then at me. For one terrible moment, I think I've made a mistake, that her kindness will curdle into resentment, or her eyes will fill with the calculating look I've seen in my siblings' gaze. Instead, she lets out a soft breath. "Oh, Dahlia, I wanted to see who would help me if I had nothing," I explain in a rush. "After years of being everyone's emergency fund, I needed to know if anyone would be there for me." She looks at the ticket again, then pushes it back toward me. No grabbing, no questioning its authenticity, no sudden recalculation of our relationship. "And what did you learn?" she asks. "That the people who should care the most, care the least." I touch the envelope containing her savings, and sometimes help comes from unexpected places. A smile touches her lips. "Money doesn't change people, Dahlia. It just reveals who they really are." The truth of her words settles over me like a blanket. "I want to tell you everything about the attorney, the trust, my plans." I pause. "You're the only one who knows." Aunt June takes my hand again. "I'm honored by your trust." "What happens next?" I ask, suddenly feeling younger than my 32 years. "That's entirely up to you," she says. "But whatever you decide, you won't have to face it alone." For the first time in weeks, perhaps years, laughter bubbles up from my chest, genuine and unburdened. I'm a millionaire with exactly one person I can trust. Aunt June's eyes twinkle. Quality over quantity, I always say. As evening settles around us, we sit at my kitchen table, eating chicken and rice from mismatched bowls. We talk about possibilities, both hers and mine, and for the first time since seeing those 6 numbers flash across my television screen, the future feels like something to welcome, rather than fear. Outside, Denver continues its Friday night rhythm, unaware that in my modest apartment, the true wealth I've discovered has nothing to do with the millions sitting in a trust account. On Saturday next week, I press send on the email and set my phone down, exhaling slowly. The message is simple enough. Family emergency meeting at my apartment tonight, 6 p.m. Important news to share. No details, just enough to pique curiosity. You okay? Nina asks, arranging a plate of store-bought cookies on my coffee table. She's been here since morning, helping prepare the apartment and steadying my nerves. I will be, I say, straightening a throw pillow for the 4th time. Just need to get through tonight. Aunt June sits quietly in the corner armchair, her knitting needles clicking softly. She hasn't said much, but her presence anchors me. When I told her everything last week, she simply nodded and said, "About time someone held a mirror up to this family." The doorbell rings at 5:58. Dad's punctuality, the one trait we share. "Here we go," I whisper, more to myself than anyone else. Mom bustles in first, thrusting a bottle of $7.99 wine into my hands. "Thought we could use this," she says, her smile tight as she scans my apartment with barely disguised judgment. Dad follows, eyes darting around until they land on me. "Is this about a new job?" he asks, not bothering with hello. Noelle sweeps in next, wrapping me in a cloud of expensive perfume. "We've been so worried," she whispers, though her hug feels mechanical, a performance for the room. Bryce arrives last, checking his phone even as he steps through the doorway. It took 3 texts and 2 calls to confirm he'd come, yet suddenly, he's all attention. "Hey, little sis," he says, eyes bright with interest I haven't seen in weeks. "Looking good. Things turning around?" They settle onto my furniture, their expressions a catalog of fake smiles that don't reach their eyes. Mom smooths her silk blouse, Dad checks his watch, Noelle picks invisible lint from her slacks, and Bryce sprawls across my couch like he owns it. I stand before them, hands steady for the first time in days. Something has shifted inside me where anxiety once lived. A calm clarity now resides. "Thank you all for coming," I begin, my voice stronger than expected. "I wanted to gather everyone to thank you for your support during my recent crisis." A ripple of confusion crosses their faces. "When I lost my job and needed help, each of you responded in your own way," I continue, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. "Mom and Elliot, you explained your kitchen renovation made it impossible to help. Dad, you spent our lunch giving me financial advice while ordering $200 wine. Noelle, you cried about Colin controlling the accounts. And Bryce, I turned to my brother. You said tough break, then blocked my calls when I mentioned the money you already owed me." The room grows still. Mom's fingers twist the hem of her blouse. Dad's jaw tightens. Noelle blinks rapidly. Bryce stares at the floor. "I'm not saying this to hurt you," I add, "just stating facts." Mom finds her voice first. "We would have helped if we really knew how serious it was," she says, defensive heat rising in her cheeks. "I was going to call you this weekend," Dad interjects. "Valerie and I were discussing options." Noelle's eyes fill with tears. "You're making us sound horrible," she whispers. Bryce pushes off the couch, anger flashing across his face. "So you called us here to guilt trip us? Real mature, Dahlia." I let their words wash over me without reaction. They're scrambling to rewrite a narrative that's already been written in actions, not words. "I don't need your money," I say quietly. I never did. Their faces freeze in confusion. "I've been offered a position as director of a new nonprofit," I explain, the cover story sliding easily from my lips. "Full benefits, substantial salary increase. I start Monday." The calculation happens instantly behind their eyes what this means for them, how my newfound stability affects their world. "That's wonderful," Mom says, recovering first. "Always knew you'd land on your feet," Dad adds, as though he'd predicted this all along. Nina catches my eye from across the room and gives a small nod. Aunt June's knitting pauses, her gaze steady on my family's faces. "I've learned who I can count on," I say, my voice gentle but firm, "and who I can't." No one speaks. The truth hangs in the air between us, impossible to dodge or dismiss. For the first time in my life, I'm not the one who feels small in this room. A week later, I called my family once again, determined to confront them one last time and establish my boundaries. I straightened the simple linen tablecloth on my dining table, adjusting the modest centerpiece of daisies in a mason jar. The same apartment, the same furniture, nothing outwardly changed in the month since I first told my family I'd lost my job, yet everything is different. The doorbell rings at 6 o'clock sharp. Mom arrives first, clutching a gift bag with tissue paper spilling from the top. "Dahlia, sweetheart." She hugs me with one arm, wafting expensive perfume. "I brought you a little something to celebrate your new position." I thank her and set the bag aside without opening it. Dad and Valerie arrive next, followed by Noelle and her husband Colin. Bryce saunters in last 20 minutes late. "Sorry, traffic was brutal," he says, though his hair is perfectly styled and his shirt freshly pressed. He glances around my apartment with newfound interest. "Place looks good, doll." Aunt June sits quietly in the corner armchair, observing. She catches my eye and gives me an almost imperceptible nod. I draw strength from her presence. "Wine?" I offer, pouring Cabernet into Mom's extended glass. "So?" Dad clears his throat, settling into my couch. "Tell us more about this nonprofit director position. Sounds impressive." I serve a simple dinner of lasagna and salad, nothing fancy, nothing that would hint at my changed circumstances. The work is rewarding, I say vaguely when pressed for details, helping connect isolated seniors with community resources. "You know," Mom interjects, swirling her wine, "I've always had a soft spot for the elderly. Maybe I could volunteer sometime." Valerie nods enthusiastically. "Harold was just saying how we should give back more." Dad straightens his shoulders. "Absolutely. And I've got some contacts in the philanthropic sector. Board members who could really help your organization grow." I take a small bite of lasagna, watching them perform their concern. The script is so transparent now that I can see it clearly. "We should do a girls' weekend at the country club," Noelle suggests, touching my arm. "You work too hard. My treat." "That's generous," I say, meeting her eyes. She looks away first. Bryce leans forward, elbows on the table. "So, about your nonprofit you hiring? I've been thinking about getting into management. The same brother who couldn't return my calls when I needed rent money now wants a job. The same sister who had no room in her budget for my crisis now offers spa weekends. The parents who lectured me about fiscal responsibility now pledge connections and support." I let the conversation flow around me, watching their performance with a strange detachment. They're trying so hard to ingratiate themselves with the person they believe I've become someone with potential value to them again. "There's something I haven't told you," I say finally, during a lull in conversation. 5 pairs of eyes turn to me with varying degrees of interest. June's gaze holds steady, supportive. "About my new position?" Mom prompts. "No." I rise from the table and walk to the drawer where I've kept the envelope. "About what happened a week before I called each of you for help." I return to the table and place 2 items in the center: my lottery ticket in its protective sleeve and a folder of trust paperwork. I won $39 million in the Mega Millions drawing. The week before I asked for your help. The silence that follows feels physical, like air being sucked from the room. Mom's wine glass slips from her fingers, spilling red across the tablecloth. Dad's face drains of color so rapidly I wonder if he might faint. "That's not funny," Bryce says, his voice cracking. "It's not a joke." I open the folder, turning it toward them. Silver Lining Enterprises is my blind trust. I claimed the winnings through it to maintain my privacy. You lied to us?" Noelle's voice rises shrilly. "You pretended to need our help?" I needed to know something more important than money. My voice remained steady, surprising even myself. "I needed to know who would be there for me the way I've always been there for all of you. This is..." Dad struggles for words, his eyes fixed on the paperwork. "This is manipulation, Dahlia. Plain and simple." "Is it?" I ask quietly. "Or was it a mirror?" Mom recovers enough to reach for the wine bottle. "You can't possibly judge us for not helping when you were lying about needing help." "I wasn't testing you for money," I say, the words coming from a place of calm certainty. "I was testing you for love, the kind that doesn't come with conditions or expectations of repayment." I turn to Bryce. "I've loaned you over $8,000 in the past 2 years, money you never repaid." My gaze shifts to Noelle. "I've covered your portion of family gifts 17 times. Then to my parents. I've done your taxes, paid for repairs, Bought plane tickets when you were short. So this is payback? Dad asks, anger replacing shock. No, June speaks for the first time, her voice gentle but firm. This is awareness. Sometimes the richest people have the poorest hearts. Colin, who has remained silent until now, looks at Noelle. Did you really borrow money from your sister and not pay it back? The confrontation ripples through the room. Not the explosion I'd feared, but something more profound, the quiet reckoning with truth. I don't want to punish anyone, I say after the accusations and denials begin to exhaust themselves. But I need you all to understand something. My boundaries have changed. I stand, feeling taller somehow. I'll never use money to buy your love, and you can't use love to access my money. Are you disowning us? Mom asks, her hand pressed against her chest dramatically. No, I'm just establishing respect as the price of admission to my life going forward. Dad pushes back from the table, chair legs scraping against the floor. I think we've heard enough. He tugs Valerie's arm. Come on. They leave without another word. Bryce follows soon after, his parting glare holding equal parts anger and calculation, already figuring how to work his way back into my good graces. Only Noelle lingers, tears streaming down her face. I didn't realize, she whispers. I never thought about how much you've done for me. That's the problem, I say, not unkindly. No one did. After they've all gone, June and I sit in the quiet apartment. The spilled wine on the tablecloth has spread into a shape almost like a heart. How do you feel? June asks. I consider the question carefully. Lighter, I decide. Like I've set down something heavy I've been carrying my whole life. June nods. Truth has weight, but not carrying it weighs more. We sit together in the gentle aftermath of revelation, two women surrounded by the debris of a family dinner and the beginning of something new, something real. A year later, the morning sun filters through my kitchen window, casting golden patterns across the butcher block island where I'm arranging a fruit platter. My new home isn't extravagant, a comfortable 3-bedroom craftsman with a wraparound porch, but it's mine, purchased with cash and filled with items chosen for meaning rather than status. Need any help with that? Aunt June appears in the doorway, her silver hair twisted into a casual bun. At 63, she moves with the energy of someone decades younger since her diabetes has improved. The modest one-story home I bought her sits just across the shared backyard, her garden already flourishing with summer vegetables. Almost done, I say, adding strawberries to the arrangement. Nina should be here any minute. The doorbell rings as if on cue. Nina enters carrying a stack of file folders for our nonprofit, Silver Lining Connections. The irony of using my lottery trust name for an organization that helps isolated seniors build community isn't lost on me. These are the new referrals, Nina says, setting the folders on the counter. 12 more seniors this month alone. I flip through the photos of elderly faces, some tentative, others lonely but hopeful. Last week, we matched Mrs. Calloway, an 84-year-old widow, with 3 volunteers who now take turns driving her to water aerobics and church. Remember when we started with just 5 seniors? I ask, touching a photo of our first client, Mr. Peterson, who now hosts weekly chess games for other widowers. June squeezes my shoulder. Your mother called again yesterday. I nod, arranging napkins for our monthly planning brunch. Mom's tentative steps toward an authentic relationship come with occasional backsliding. Last week's call included both genuine questions about my life and a thinly veiled hint about her anniversary trip with Elliot. Dad's still not speaking to me? I ask, though I already know the answer. Not directly, June confirms, though Noelle mentioned he's recovered nicely from his heart attack. The heart attack I paid for through an anonymous donor to the hospital. The bills would have bankrupted him and Valerie, their lifestyle leaving no room for emergency funds. They never knew the money came from me. And Bryce? Nina asks, her tone carefully neutral. Still expects the mansion and sports car I never bought. I laugh without bitterness. His last text just said loan? No greeting, no context. June pours coffee into mismatched mugs collected from thrift stores. Some relationships might never heal, Dahlia. That's not failure, it's honesty. The kitchen wall holds a collage of photos, seniors at our community garden, volunteers delivering meals, game nights at the senior center. Among them, a small frame holds the lottery ticket that changed everything, preserved like a butterfly under glass. It's been exactly 1 year today. I say, tapping the frame. Nina raises her coffee. To finding out who truly loves you. The best fortune of all, June adds. We toast as sunlight catches the edge of my simple silver bracelet, engraved with the words, "Presence over presence, my new life philosophy." Later that evening, June and I drive to visit Mr. Roberts, a retired postal worker whose children live across the country. His face brightens when we arrive with homemade dinner and genuine interest in his stories. As he shares tales of delivering mail through 40 Colorado winters, I catch June's eye across the room. This is the real wealth, the currency of connection, the investment in human dignity. My journal entry tonight will be brief. The $39 million showed me what was already true. Some treasures can't be counted, only felt. And that's a fortune no lottery could ever match.